Then I'll divorce you.
Huh? Wait a minute. How could you say that all of a sudden? You see, it's this, this.
I've never seen my husband, Dave, panic like this before. But it was my mother-in-law, Meryl, who spoke up instead of Dave. Oh, Dave, honey. Stop being so upset now. How pathetic. I always tell you this every single time. A wife must always listen to her husband. So, it's okay. She's saying that she's divorcing you. It's completely outrageous for a wife to disobey her own husband. If she doesn't like it, then she can just leave.
No, well, yes, but...
You say that I could just leave if I didn't like it.
But we're going to get a divorce though, so there won't be any choice for me but to leave,
My goodness, you never shut your mouth. I've really never liked you since the beginning, when we first met. Oh, really? What a coincidence. I also hated you from the very beginning, too. My name is Kelly, and I work in an office. My husband, Dave, and I decided to get married after 6 months of dating, and we have been married for over 2 years now. I loved his personality, where he'd willingly make decisions about things. I am the second eldest out of the 3 sisters, and although my eldest sister, who is usually quiet and reserved, she had a strong sense of keeping things under control. And as for the youngest sister, even though she was the youngest, she had great leadership skills. So I was sandwiched in between my sisters like this, and whenever we were invited to family events or when my father has some invited guests over at our house, I would just follow my sisters around. I can't fully say that it was all because of the environment I grew up in, but I'm not really good at making any decisions. The bigger the issue, the more I think over and over again, and in the end, I always have trouble coming up with a detailed plan and decision. When I was living at home, I was able to live comfortably as long as I kept up with my 2 sisters. I think that's why I saw my husband as a dependable guy who was really good at making decisions. But the one thing I have that no one has is that I would say that I'm much more particular and stubborn about some things than most people. And I'm proud about this part of me. Probably because we 3 sisters were close in age. When we were kids, our father would get angry at all 3 of us at some things as a joint responsibility. The eldest and the youngest sister would immediately apologize to father, saying, "I'm sorry, but I would never apologize unless I completely agreed with him." Even after an hour or 2 had passed since I got grounded or punished, I was too stubborn and never apologized to him, and my eldest sister got tired of waiting and said to me, "Just say sorry here and it will solve everything." And since she said that in front of father, he would say, "What are you talking like that for?" And he kept getting angrier and angrier. I caused a lot of trouble to both my eldest and youngest sisters due to my stubbornness. Now that we became adults, it is one of our family's funny stories that we have. But to put it simply, I'm a person who leaves judgment to others, but stubbornly refuses to agree with what I don't agree with. Being like that, my husband still fell in love with me and asked me to marry him. He is a very special person to me. Since I married my husband, my life has been calm. My husband, who knows my particularities very well, never tries to butt in or argue with what I was particular about. So, I liked the life I had with Dave very much. Then suddenly, my husband suggested that we should buy a home.
Hey, it's been 2 years since we got married, so why don't we start thinking about buying our own home?
Oh, that sounds great.
I know it's a long way off, but we want our kids to grow up in a place where they can have fun. Besides, Kelly, you're facing a lot of issues with where we're renting right now, right?
Oh, yeah, sort of. We have been living in a rented apartment since we got married, and since living there, I have been concerned about the noises. If I slept in my bedroom, I would wake up at 5 a.m. to the sound of the TV from the neighbors below. On weekends, the neighbors next door are singing very loudly with guitars in their hands. Our house was a corner room on the top floor of a 6-story apartment building, and from the walkway, if it was a clear day, we could see a beautiful mountain. Some neighbors would come all the way just to see it, but there is this one neighbor who stands in front of our front door with a phone in his hand and says, "This is so beautiful," and doesn't leave the spot for some time. Even my husband could hear the guitar noise from the next door, but it seems like my husband can't hear the noisy sound of the residents below. So, I'm aware that my ears are too sensitive, but waking up at 5 a.m. every morning was causing me some stress. Plus, I was very concerned about the sound I was making on my own. I was wearing fuzzy slippers to try to reduce the noise as much as possible and to be considerate of the people living below me. But my husband wouldn't really care about that and walk around with his bare feet thumping around. You might say it's just a normal sound, but to me, even that's stressful, and I always think that I don't want to bother people because of me. That's why I was so happy when my husband suggested to buy our own home. I was really happy that he took my personality into consideration, not to mention our children. My husband was determined to buy a custom-built home and was determined to start making the home from finding our own land. I agreed with his idea, and from then on, we spent our holidays looking for a land. It took us 3 months to find a plot of land, and when the time to sign the contract came, "I'm thinking $20,000 for the land as a deposit and $30,000 for the house. But is that okay?" "Yeah, that's fine. But how much shall I pay?" "Kelly, you don't have to pay. I'll pay it out of my savings." "Oh, okay, I see." "I'll pay the loan, and I want you to bear the cost of living with the living expenses." "Okay then, let's do that." It was pretty easily decided about who would do what. Then the search for a home builder began. And as I was not particularly particular about the home builder, I went along with my husband's decision. But once we signed the contract with the home builder and proceeded to the floor plan, my parents-in-law, Meryl and Jack, began to show their interest in it. "Oh, wait a minute. You've already began discussing about the floor plan, is that right? Let me see it." "Oh, okay, here." That day, as soon as Meryl and Jack came to visit us, they questioned us about our floor plan. "Oh, this kitchen is no good. It'll be difficult to use." "Oh, really? You think so?" "Yeah. What do you call this separate kitchen table again? Ireland kitchen, is it? Do you mean island kitchen?" "Well, I don't really care about the name, but this is not good. From this direction, people can see the full view of the kitchen. You should make the kitchen as an L shape." "We should? Why should Meryl be the one to decide about this?" "My husband likes the kitchen as it is, so there's nothing wrong with it. Dave and I prefer the island kitchen, so there's no problem with it." Once I said that, Meryl glared at me, and Dave panics at the tension we had and came in between. Now, it's just still in the draft stage at the moment. Why don't we discuss more and decide on it some other time?" My husband's statement was totally missing the point. Instead, couldn't he at least just say, "It's Kelly and I's house, so it's none of your business, Mom"? After that, Meryl went on to say that the living room should have more room and that the house should be barrier-free and so on, as if she herself was going to live there. Even Jack was saying that we should build a porch right at the entrance. I don't think that this would happen, but I think I should just make sure about this with Dave. "Hey, the new house that we're building is for only you and I to live in, right?" I posed the question to Dave after both Meryl and Jack went home.
Yes, that's right.
Only the kids, me, and you, Dave, will live there, right?
Why?
What do you mean, why? Well, I'm not going to live with your parents.
Do you mean that you won't live with them at all?
Yeah.
Well, you didn't have to be that clear about it.
Well, if I don't make these things clear, we'll fight about it later on. Besides, we talked about this already when we started looking for our land. I said that I wouldn't live with my parents and I wouldn't live with your parents, and you agreed to that, right?
Well, yes, but how come you wouldn't live with them at all? I'm sure in the future we might ask your parents to take care of our kids.
Well, they won't come, I know that for sure. That's because they said that we have our own life, and they're already looking for a nursing home for them. And they also prepared themselves on where to be buried once they're gone.
Isn't that a little cold?
Cold? What do you mean?
Well, I mean, that means that you won't take care of your parents at all, right?
No, I will take care of them.
Huh? I don't really understand.
If my parents are in trouble, I'll help them. That's pretty obvious, right? No matter how much they search for good nursing homes, if my parents get sick, I will go and take care of them. What I can't tolerate are parents who take it for granted that their kids are the ones who have to take care of them. My parents always try to avoid being a burden to us, you know.
Does that mean that my parents are the ones who are being a burden to us?
To say it bluntly and honestly, yes. It means that I see glimpses of that. Because why do they meddle so much about our house? We're independent, remember? If it was just an advice, I'd gladly accept it. But today, it looked to me as if they were ordering us to do things because they were going to live with us in our new house.
That's not true.
I see. Did I misunderstand? If I did, then I'm sorry. So, you won't be living with your parents when the new house is complete, right?
Of course, we won't be living with them.
I see. Good, good. I'm glad to hear that. I was wrong then. I'm sorry. I got the word out of my husband that his parents would not be living together with us, but even after that, his parents continued to butt in and meddle. No matter how I look at it, I can totally take the hint that they're trying to live together with us. If both Meryl and Jack are kind, nice people, there is still some room for some thought. And if my husband had properly informed me at the beginning that he wanted to live with them, there would be some room to think about the possibility of it. But I think my husband intends to force me to live together with them once the house is built. Besides, I really didn't like how Meryl behaved in general. Meryl just loves to gossip around, and she is always looking for something to gossip about. There are several houses right in front of Meryl and Jack's house, and Meryl knows when the people drive in and out of their houses, and it seems like she knows their routine schedule. She knows when they drive in and out because she peeks through the curtains every time she hears a sound. I get so frustrated every time I see Meryl do this. Well, if there is a person like Meryl living in the neighborhood, I guess the neighborhood is a little safe, but I still didn't like her behavior. You shouldn't really care about other people but yourself. But if someone is in trouble, you can help them, and that should be enough. Besides, she only speaks bad things about people. I really hated it when she did that too. Whenever she opens her mouth, she says, "I don't dislike that person," or "that person is not a bad person." But then, right after, she will say something bad about them. She really has a bad habit about that. She has a way of thinking that I cannot understand at all. And Jack doesn't even try to stop her from doing it. Sometimes, they even get together and listen through the curtains to see what the neighbors are up to, and they argue with each other about what is right and wrong. It is hell for me to live with such people like Meryl and Jack. And since my husband's parents are like that, My husband also has a tendency to look down on people. I never saw a glimpse of this before we got married. Thinking about that now, I'm sure he hid that part from me. Since we got married, my husband began to talk down on people. I noticed negative comments such as, "He's useless," or "He can't do his job," and so on. As long as you belong to a company, you may experience that kind of feeling one way or another. But it was the company that decided to hire those kind of people. And we can't really say anything about that. They were hired because they are expected to have certain abilities. It's just a waste of time and not good for our mentality to be always negative about it. But my husband seems to keep himself going by looking down at other people. Seeing my husband be like that, I was a little disappointed in him already too. And now that disappointment I've had has become into something bigger. If my husband now forces me to live with his parents, I will divorce him. So from then on, when his parents made some comments about the floor plan, I remained quiet. Then, bit by bit, both Meryl and Jack began to directly say their comments and desires to the designer. Now, what they did is completely out of the line. My husband was looking at me on how I'd react to his parents at first, but seeing me quiet, I guess he was relieved that I wasn't saying anything. After that, he allowed his parents to say whatever they wanted about the house. Then the house was built, and it was made completely and 100% through what Meryl and Jack had desired for. Now, my husband had been busy with the moving process, but we managed to get all the things together, and the move was set for tomorrow.
Well then, let's go over to the new house.
My husband talks to me with a huge smile on his face. We're going there tomorrow anyways, so we don't have to go now.
No way! We have to decide what to put and where to put it. Why aren't you so motivated? It's a newly built house, you know. I built it just for you, Kelly.
Yeah, right. Who would want to live in a house that doesn't reflect any of my opinions?
And besides, not going to check on the house even once is also kind of disappointing.
Because I'm not interested.
Excuse me?
I'm not interested in the new house.
Hey, don't say that now, or I'm going to get angry.
My husband is quite excited about the new house, and I'm just very unmotivated about it.
Anyways, we're going.
Well, if it'll make things easier, then fine. And when we arrived at the new house, I saw some familiar luggages which had already been moved in. I knew it. And my husband ran up the stairs and brought Meryl and Jack, who were waiting ahead of us.
My parents are also coming to live with us today, so please take care of them well.
I can't believe it. He really said that. Yes, well, let's get divorced then. I still had a tiny bit of hope that my husband would keep his promise to me. Dave wouldn't break the promise, is what I thought. Well, this was a faint hope. There was nothing to hesitate about anymore. But I decided to watch over him for a while if he would change his thoughts. Hey, Kelly, why would you say such a thing to ruin the moment? The house is finished, so it's a good, happy thing, right? No way. Oh, why is that? Because my no-good husband didn't keep his promise. Huh? I'm saying that your no-good son didn't keep his word. You! What are you talking about? Hey, Dave, do you remember your promise?
What are you talking about?
Oh, so you are aware that you're a no-good husband, huh? I said that I didn't want to live with your parents, remember? And you told me that you don't want to live with your parents either, right? Do you even remember that?
I built this house with my own money.
So?
So, I get to decide who lives in that house.
Oh, really? And?
So, I decided that I will live with my parents. And you're going to obey it.
So, your promise to me was a lie?
Yes, it is. Because if I didn't promise you that, we wouldn't be able to build the house, right?
I don't know what you mean by we wouldn't be able to build the house, but you lied when you said you would build a house for me then, didn't you?
No, that's... Really, I love you, but my parents are important too, so I'm sorry.
I see. I understand.
Kelly,
Then, I'm getting a divorce.
Huh? Wait a minute. How could you say that all of a sudden? You see, it's this, this.
I've never seen my husband Dave panic like this before. But it was my mother-in-law, Meryl, who spoke up instead of Dave. Oh, Dave, honey. Stop being so upset now. How pathetic. I always tell you this every single time. A wife must always listen to her husband. So it's okay. She's saying that she's divorcing you. It's completely outrageous for a wife to disobey her own husband. If she doesn't like it, then she can just leave.
No, well, yes, but...
You say that I could just leave if I didn't like it, but we're going to get a divorce though, so there won't be any choice for me but to leave, My goodness, you never shut your mouth. I've really never liked you since the beginning when we first met. Oh, really? What a coincidence. I also hated you from the very beginning too. Just one last thing. Do you really think that Dave alone can pay the loan on this house with just his income? Huh? Aha! I knew it. You're thinking that Dave can pay off all the loan with just his income, aren't you? This house is in Dave's name and the loan is under his name. He's paying off the full amount of loan, which is all deducted from his income. If he pays the loan with his income, then who is going to cover the living expenses? Dave, it seems like you're forgetting too, but it was me who was going to pay for the living expenses. Meryl and Jack, you both are already living on a pension, aren't you? Oh, I pity both of you. You could have lived in a new house, but now you're going to have to pay for the living expenses of 3 people with both your pension. I'm really sorry about that. What? Hey, Dave, what does she mean by that? You said you weren't going to collect a dime from us.
Well, that's...
Well then, it's no longer any of my business, so I'll be going now, if you'll excuse me. I left them happily after saying what I had to say. I had already made arrangements to move the next day. In fact, only my belongings were to be sent to my parents' house. I didn't want to give up my hope on my husband until the very end, but given the reality of the situation, I think it was the right thing to do. After that, my husband and in-laws must have understood the reality of living in the new house. They came back to me afterwards, but their idea still hasn't changed, and that they wanted to live together. There was no way I would accept that. But that is not the important thing. They actually ignored me by prioritizing their own desires, and they were just too selfish. Besides, because this was who I am, what I had decided on would never be swayed no matter what anyone said. In the end, the divorce took 6 months, but I managed to finalize it. After that, they seemed to have let go of the newly built property, and within 2 years of its completion, it was named as an auction property. I guess they couldn't pay the loan after all. It's only natural, isn't it? Because we had calculated the money with the premise of me living in the house. I work for a real estate company, so it is one of my daily routines to check the auction properties. I was thrilled to see the house was listed as on sale. I feel like I have finally settled my divorce. Now, I am building my own home. I'm single and own my own home, which seems like I'll be single for the rest of my life, but I'm completely fine with that. I'm very particular and stubborn at some things, so I'm sure that marriage will not work out for me. I will continue to enjoy being single. Good for her. If each person can live their life as they want, then they are happy. I hope you have a good time, Kelly. Thank you for watching until the end. please subscribe to our channel. We hope to see you in our next video.